let's have a look at this drop back into the corner. Touchdown! Right where no one else could touch him. Welcome to the new format for how I'm going to do reviews and previews, where I'm going to have all of the teams lined up instead of just doing segments. Why am I doing it this way instead of the 10-minute videos? Because this is what YouTube wants, is around 30-minute videos up to an hour. It's seemingly. It's because of AdSense. Now, I'm not going to get ads on my videos for some time, but basically those yellow bar videos, this is why, so that I can just fit in with the model that they prefer so I could get my videos promoted. Off to the standings, but first, how about a clip from those Elks? Take a look at that ceiling block right there by 59, and a little bit of a move there from 5. Pretty good first down from those Elks. Here are the scores from that first week. We're going to go from game 1 down to game 4, starting with the Montreal Alouettes and the Edmonton Elks. So I'll put up another clip since we're changing slides here. Here's a very deficient defensive pass play. He had all the time in the world, and this guy got behind on this professional defense. Terrible. Touchdown, Montreal Alouettes. And let's go through the slow-mo. Back this way to the left. Dancing to get open. I'm here. The other team could have seen that too. Touchdown, Montreal Alouettes. Here are the standings with the East Division. Pretty non-competitive, but the Red Blacks secured a win. Alouettes continue to perform. Not a fan of their performance in week 3, if I'm being quite honest, but still, I still think they're the class of the Canadian Football League. While the Rough Riders, they continue to slip by. I guess it is a strength to win close games, but I don't know about this one. They could have lost this one, but they had that nice photo finish we'll get into once we get into their section. Winnipeg Blue Bombers won both matches against the Lions. The Calgary Stampeders lost a pretty invalid one, although I'm going to give some respect to the Red Blacks because their running game came into play. Their defense was less deficient in the sense that they were more focused on not committing terrible penalties. Off to the next clip, we're going to look at another positive thing for those Elks. This is one of Trey Ford's better passes, and he puts it where nobody else can get it. He kind of got close to leading the receiver. Really nice. Let's see the slow-mo. And northeast. Yes, those Alouettes. In my notes, I know that I'm always happy with that 10 yards per pass average right there. Happy with those 3 touchdowns. And 250 yards is just enough to see what I like to see out of Davis Alexander. Well, McLeod, Bethel Thomas, hey, they got a good backup too. Almost 10 yards there, 6 out of 8. You know, both of them have the right amount of completion percentage, and I might do a jump cut here to give you the exact percentage because I don't want to math it out of context. Okay, McLeod is 75%. Very good, very good. He's almost thrown 10 passes, so 75% is a valid number with that amount of 8 passes. Really cool. While his starter, Davis Alexander, went 83%. I'm just happy about this guy. Really good player. So the passing game, as you may imagine, is perfectly fine. The running, we got about 80 yards rushing between Scott and Erling. And then 91 with Davis Alexander chipping in, and I don't like that, so I'm not going to count it. About 88 yards with McLeod, Bethel Thomas. You know, let's just keep it at, for our considerations, we're at 80 yards between the 2 running backs, and 80 yards is enough, actually, for their balance. And the 18 carries between the 2, that's enough for a balance. I'm happy with the rush attack that I'm seeing out of those 2. That being Scott III and Thomas Erling. Now, we look at the targets here, and it's more difficult to determine this between 2 passers because I don't have a perfect memory. But I will say that I don't like the focus on Sneed and Philpott. Are these guys good receivers? Especially Philpott's a good receiver. And if he's at 96 yards, maybe you're picking the right guy in the progressions. So this is not a complete science. But the 9 and the 6 and the 5 with Austin Mack there, it's below average to have three people you're focusing on. No, Speaker or Spiker, he played a role. Rambo played a role. But in general, I want to see more utilization of those various receivers. But as we've seen here, Philpott was able to strike 96. So, you can make an argument. With 4 sacks on the day, that's good. Interception's always good. Forced fumble. Why am I saying that a sack is good? Because it shows that you're applying pressure on other situations where it could be recorded as a hurry. If you're hitting 4 times, you're getting penetration. If you force a couple fumbles, you're getting penetration. And the interception shows that it actualized the benefit of the sack or the tackle for loss in a way. Like, I like to look at tackle for loss with the 2 visible right here and add it to the sacks to say 6. That's a very productive day on the defense. Again, I will say it again. The Montreal Alouettes are a complete team. I like them a lot in terms of what they're showing me. Have a look at this one. It was a play fake, play action pass, and the guy had his head turned the other way. You can place the ball anywhere you want if he's turned the other way. Let's look at these Elks. I know it was a close match. I get it. However, I'm just not a believer in Trey Ford as much as the TSN portion of the media looks at him. I think TSN does a great job. But and I see that there's 8.6 yards per pass. That's good. 2-to-1 for touchdown to interception ratio. That's good. It's just that what I see from him is that his highs they're just okay, and his lows he's awful. As I do 26 into excuse me, we're going to divide into 27 by 36 here. Hey ho, that's 75%. Pretty good job, right? Pretty good job right there. It's just that I don't like the look of his passing. I don't like he gets receivers to catch the ball that would be knocked down in most other instances. As this year progresses, as the season progresses, and you see Trey Ford falling off, it's because defenses are more drilled and they're going to start picking him off more, deflecting him more, instead of these receivers seemingly pulling him out in instances where he's not doing what he should. When I look at that run attack, I was very surprised because that's over 100 yards across 2 people. They had 18 attempts, not including Trey Ford. I like that Trey Ford carried it less. I like that about him. He's prolonging the plays and all that. And I see that he's targeting 3 people here in receiving. That needs to, both quarterbacks on both sides needed to spread the love a little bit more. Now, again, it's imperfect, but with there's 3 people, a better offense would have at least 4. And then from there, it's just, good. Even better if you can get 5 and up. But 4 is my metric of showing that the distribution is going to keep people off balance in terms of that pass attack. Because if it's just 3 or 2 or 3 or less, you can scheme a little bit of a plan around who you need to focus on. Who are the pacifiers here, allowing Trey Ford to be comfortable. That's how to look at it. I see 1 tackle for a loss and a sack. It's an improvement. The defense is coming into form under their new coaching staff. I don't dislike it. As we go to the next slide-a-roo with a brief pause so you can have a clip for some action. Now, technically, it's Edmonton's turn, but this was just too fun not to include. Nah. Yeah, that's awful, right? But that was just a fun deflection. We'll see it again. There you go. Almost got it. Now let's compare these teams in terms of the team stats. The team stats. As you see that the passing's pretty much even. I just like the sharpness of those 2 quarterbacks for Montreal. The rushing attack, I was very surprised to see that the Elks were more more competent in their attack technically. It's just that I don't see it as a negative for the Alouettes because the Alouettes provided the balance in more concrete terms across the game. Now, it was a 10-point loss for Edmonton. It felt like it was much bigger of a gap, and that's because Edmonton surged at the end. I don't know what's it with Montreal and Saskatchewan where they keep on laying off. They just need to finish off their opponent like they were in week 1 and in week 2 for Montreal. The first downs you can glean. If you want to glean more information, you can pause it here. I don't like that. If you were to combine the tackle for loss with the sacks, we're at 7 versus 2. And that's more indicative of defensive production as far as I'm concerned. Because you see 5 sacks plus 2 is 7 for tackles for loss, and you see 1 and 1 for Edmonton. I'm still pretty high on the capabilities of the Montreal Alouettes. Now you can pause the video if you want to stay here, but we're going to move on to the next game if you don't mind. All right, you know it's coming. We got to see it, and we're just going to front load this with that return back for a touchdown as they have a walk-off kick return touchdown. Brilliant. This is such an exciting thing to watch for me. Touchdown, Rough Riders. Oh, that felt so good to watch. I'm sorry for any Argos fans. There was a lot of good development for the Argos week 3. I'm going to be more positive than you think because I just hold the Rough Riders in high esteem, just so you know. Okay, let's have a look-see. It's not that bad of a performance for the Rough Riders, except it is for me. It is because they keep on squeaking out these wins. They really lucked into this one where, you know, if that touchdown, return didn't happen, they really could have lost this game very easily. It was 2 touchdowns to 1. I'm not going to begrudge that too much if I'm in charge of the pass attack. 13.8 yards per attempt, basically 14 yards. Hey, I'm loving it. 13 out of 17 for as few passes as he's thrown. That's not bad either. To be precise, that's 76%. Just so you know. And the running attack continues to be hyper competent because Tommy Stevens, he's used like a fullback. He's used to get the short yardage. So I don't really begrudge using him. And I'll throw in Bertrand Harris, I think, in there with 53 yards plus that quarterback. On top of the 91 is 145, I feel. Hey, it's enough yards. And between these guys, 25 attempts is enough to provide that balance for Harris. It's interesting that we didn't see more of Harris, honestly, with those throws. And you see that he's focusing on 2 guys. I don't like it that he's focusing on 2 guys. Because my numbers utilizing 4 of your guys at least, and then above would be meritorious. But focusing on 2 is not great by Trevor Harris, except when you consider that it's 76% throwing. He just needs to change it up for next week because that the defenses are going to key on Myers, and Keyshawn Johnson there. I really like Keyshawn Johnson, though. So if you have someone who can exploit defenses like Johnson, I almost don't care if he's targeted 10 times. Okay? If that makes sense. It's still not enough people being targeted in this instance. And they sacked people 3 times, add the tackle for loss. You're getting penetration for 4. The interception is a good sign that there's been some pressure. And I like to put in the forced fumble there for my metric of there's some pressure going on here. So functionally 5. What I'm trying to say is the defense showed up for Saskatchewan for the longest time, and then it didn't. And that's what's making me start to feel as though the Rough Riders have a stamina issue. They need to do some cardio or something. I don't know what to tell you. They're just not able to last 4 quarters just yet, which is good because this is so easy to fix. They'll be up to speed mid-season. Don't worry. Arbuckle had a great game. He might be in contention with the injured starters still because those first two games not great, but this is pretty good. Let's have ourselves a closer look, and we're gonna infer based on what I recall from watching the game as well. 26 out of 33. I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Two touchdowns to one. I, I think we saw a lot of improvement from Arbuckle. I know he's the defending Grey Cup guy, but I have not been impressed until week 3 with him. Regardless of the numbers, really, we can throw out the numbers. I liked how he threw the ball. He felt more confident. You know, maybe he's like, okay, I got to perform, or the guy behind me is going to take my spot. He might be rising to the challenge, and that's an overall good thing. And that's a 78% completion percentage. You know, even if these numbers were different, I just felt there was more of a presence back there. I do not like their run attack, and this is proof in the pudding. There's 11 rushes on anyone other than Arbuckle. Now, if you throw in Arbuckle, it's not really that impressive, but we're looking at 42 yards for production on a team that needs that second aspect of their offense. But if I'm looking at Arbuckle here, he's still beneath average, targeting 3 people. And I like that Mayan Williams was able to get them out of an entire quarter. They ran the ball 3 times consecutively, and he's getting first downs or moving the sticks. So they might develop a run attack. But he was nice out of the backfield too. He was a really productive guy today. Now, if you look at the 37 yards, still a 5.3 average. So I don't like the run attack. The run attack, though, has what? Potential to be great. I don't like that he's targeting 3, but, he can get to 4. He can get to 4, especially with, a hot route, Mayan Williams out of the backfield. I do like that. And you can see that they didn't get home as often as the Rough Riders, but that's okay. The Rough Riders are a good team. The defense can develop, and their linebacker was out. So keep that in mind. When you add sacks to fumbles to tackle for loss, they only got 2. Anything actuated from that. They were able to rush. They got in the face of, Trevor Harris, is it? Yeah, Trevor Harris a few times. But he was able to stare them down and throw the ball. So maybe even though there were hurries, even though there are sacks and tackle for loss, you can mitigate that because they did hurry the quarterback on occasion, in my memory. And they're able to get an interception, so that's good, especially against someone as talented as Harris. Except Harris does throw some ducks every now and again, sometimes he just throws it and it just lands in the breadbasket. But every other pass in the game is perfect out of Harris. But you've seen it. Let's have a look. Trevor Harris fakes it, and he's pumping, and he throws. Oh, my God. Nobody could get there. Touchdown, Rough Riders. Rough Riders scored the touchdown, and here's a little dance. Au contraire, let's compare. And that didn't make sense, but let's go with it. Passing yards, more or less the same, but look at the rushing. That's what I always do with the Rough Riders. Look at the rushing. Very prolific. And, the net offense, there was a huge difference. These lines don't make it look like a huge difference, but production-wise, it was pretty good. I think Arbuckle was looking pretty great in that pocket. He looked good. Trevor Harris looked good. Both of them need to spread the ball a little bit more. Both teams, there must be some sort of rival. This is my first season. There must be some sort of rivalry between these two teams because the penalties were ridiculous. And I'm going to assume that's an aberration instead of it being a continuous issue that I have, like I had with the Red Blacks until this week. So if you want to look at these stats, you can pause the video, but we're going to move along because I don't want to waste time. There was terrible conditions, so this is one of the few passes that landed for either team. And I was so surprised to see the Red Blacks actually running the ball better than the Stampeders. Okay, I'll give you this clip too because I wasn't quick enough on the trigger there. That was a nice first down. See, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, look, I probably shouldn't even do the math, to provide you with that completion percentage, but it's only right that I do, so I shall. That there's 40%, but think of it like this. It was a terrible storm. The more rushing yards you do, the better. The less passes, the better. And, he got a touchdown. There's no interceptions. I'm going to take this as an aberration. I'm sure Dustin Crum can throw the ball better than what we saw. That's how I'm interpreting this. And then you see that both running backs did their jobs. Crum ran, and you know what? That's the best he could do in this situation. So I'm not so low on the idea of Crum running the ball in conjunction with Stanback and Adebayo. Adeboboya. I've heard his name. It's just Adeboboya. I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. Let's throw out the targeting too in this instance. Basically two people were focused on, but this is not a big deal because the pass attack was not going to be great this game for any team. And we take our sacks, 2, plus a forced fumbles, 2, which makes it 4, and a tackle for loss, 5. They got home. And I was surprised how often they did. I thought there'd be more interceptions even. Really great job by the Red Blacks on defense. I didn't see a lot of stupid penalties this time. So, good work. Good work overall, I say. Let's see the run here. Can they get the first down after? Oh, my God. Such effort. Good job. First down. Again, regardless of performance, what we're going to do is give the Vernon Adams a break. We're not going to make this into a big deal that his performance was terrible in these conditions. 17 out of 32, not as bad as it could have been, honestly. For completion's sake, I will give you the completion percentage is 53%. Not terrible, not terrible. The running attack was good enough, but it wasn't great. Vernon Adams Jr., I wish he'd protect himself more, but in this instance where all you can do is run, I'm more than happy that he carried it 3 times for 21 yards. I feel like that the Stampeders had a better running attack going into this game, but oddly, the Red Blacks, they've come into form a little bit. And you see the targets generally would be good. He's got 5 receivers. It's meritorious what Vernon Adams is doing with this Philpott. There's multiple Philpotts in this league. Tevin Jones, Dominique Rhymes, Barnes, and Mills. He's spreading that rock around. He's keeping the pass defense not honest, but he's variable in who he targets, so it keeps them wondering who this point guard is going to distribute it to. It's a good thing. And we take our sacks. We get a 1, forced fumbles 0, and then 2 tackles for loss, so 3. This wasn't the game to have an average day, and so it was. Because the Red Blacks were able to move that ball very effectively. I knew their offense was good, the Red Blacks, but the problem was their defense was holding them back, and the Red Blacks could have won more games if not for that defense. So once that defense decided to settle down and be professional, the Red Blacks are going to start winning games, especially if that continues here on out, and it should. It shows that their coaching staff is doing what it should do. So pretty happy with the Ottawa Red Blacks performance. Do I think they're one of the best teams in the league? I feel that the Calgary Stampeders could beat them in good conditions, just saying. Let's look at the past here. I know it's not very indicative of what happened during the game, but that was a nice little catch with terrible conditions, wasn't it? We're going to just skip past anything that has to do with passing, okay? I made sure to color those TSN bars right there because they're both colored red for both teams. So I got the red, blacks, black here to the left, and I gave I kept the Stampeders red right here. When you look at the bars, anyways. See, the rushing attack is what hey, the Stampeders threw more pass yards, but this is a rushing game in the rushing conditions, and it wasn't like the Stampeders' pass attack was revolutionary. Okay. they would have a good pass and then the drives would stall. So it's 218 yards, sure, but then the drive would stall. The kick wouldn't hit, whereas the Red Blacks were able to gash them in the run game and were able to convert first downs. Which is funny because I look at the first downs. This feels wrong. 7-9. I don't know what the deal is. And sure, the Stampeders had more net offense, which makes me wonder if they're adding punts in this. I still have to look that up to see if that's what's skewing this to look so weird. Yeah, look, I'm not going to emphasize these slides as much anymore because this is really befuddling me because I know what I saw. And they must add special teams to net offense for whatever reason because there's no return yards if you look at this diagram. So that's why it looks off like this. 367 yards plus your punt returns from, yeah, that's why it looks so weird. Anyways, that's beside the point. Let's move along, shall we? Here the team just does enough, and I like it. Just puts it on. He lets it. I know it wasn't in front of his receiver, but he was able to loft it, and he basically was able to put it in front of his receiver, if that makes sense. And here we are with the Lions, and see how good they did. Yeah, Masoli, that was one of the worst passes. He had one touchdown and two interceptions, and he had a below average, in my opinion. There's no average pass average per attempt. There's only good and bad. Good starts at 7, and then bad is anything beneath that. 6.4 is not good enough. Now, if we take 25 and divide it by 44, I'm talking in real time with the calculator here, you get 56. You even look at those numbers. 25 out of 44, terrible. Absolutely terrible. The rush attack was not that potent with 47 yards, 11 attempts. 11 attempts, it's not as though it didn't do its job. It's just it could be a better balance. So I'm going to give them a break. I think their offense was varied enough. Actually, no, I take that back. 9 of the carries were by the running back. That's not enough. And it was just not a good showing in terms of yards, in terms of their rush attack. I was adding the quarterback there. The quarterback you shouldn't even add at all. And those 2 extra carries, that's what put it over where it's like, 11 attempts. Maybe it's just a passing day. He did have a good spread, though, 13-10, 88. That's a good spread. Is 13 considerably different from 8? Sure. But you'd see that it could be any of these 4 people that could get the ball, and that's what I like to see. It sounds so simple, but it's more important than you'd think. All right? You look at the sacks, and there's a sack, there's the tackle for loss, getting them up to 2, and no such thing as a fumble. Not good enough. Not good enough. Is it a bad day? No. But if you're a team and you're evaluating yourself and saying, where do I need to improve? They need to focus on pressuring the quarterback and getting on the other side of the line. So that's why I'm saying, seeing these games where there's only 2, fruits of pressures. You need to hit him more. You need to hit that halfback or that running back a little bit more too, behind the line anyways, because you're going to hit him regardless, but behind the line to stop the momentum. Even if he gets 3 yards gain, if you hit him in the backfield, it's going to be a lot better for you if he loses some momentum there and doesn't get as many yards. 2 interceptions, good. I'm not going to really comment on that much. This run gashed the defense. Let's just watch them run it. And right down the middle, you love to see it. Well, we know what stats to not focus on, and it's basically up to feel when you're watching the game, when you're looking at TSN stats, because they do add the special teams to the net offense. BC Lions did really good if you just throw in special teams. What you should focus on is that the pass offense from Winnipeg needs to improve, and the numbers don't show it, but British Columbia needs to improve too, despite it being nearly 300 yards. 250 is good. That's where it starts being good. So 280 is a good showing. It's just that we know, based on what we saw, that both pass attacks need to improve. And the rushing was good enough. It's good enough in the sense that you're providing the balance for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Rush attack is 47. It's just not good enough because they didn't rush it as often as they should at 11 carries. We already covered that, though. Both defenses underperformed. Not much else to say, so I'm not going to dwell on it here as we move on to the next slide. Let's have a look. I think in the future I'm going to put the play of the week at the last clip, but there's a nice interception right there. Wanted to show it. Not the play of the week, but it was good. All right, that wraps it up. We hit 30 minutes, and I gave you the same kind of information that I would have broke down across multiple videos. It's funny because in real estate, you want to break up your property and sell pieces, but in real life, YouTube, actually, real estate's real, right? Real estate is not imaginary, you know? It's not a great industry these days in either country in North America, but, real estate is less real than YouTube. And, 30-minute videos is what they like, and they got it. And I didn't change the format at all, so it's pretty cool. Just a huge script I had. And then once I practice the script a few times, then I go off script for the actual video. So that's why you're getting more or less the same kind of content each time, where it feels real because it's not scripted, but it comes from practice script. So, at least it's polished. As we end the video, thank you for your time. Bye for now.